just to start off with, we are going to be recording this webinar. So this webinar will be available afterwards on YouTube and will be emailed out a link to everybody. So everybody should have this webinar after as well, so they can come back to it and make some references. But most importantly, before we get really kickstarted, please let me know if you can see my screen. So just give me a quick hands up or in the chat box, let me know that you can see my screen. So thank you. Thanks everyone. So okay, everyone can see my screen, which is great. Wonderful, wonderful. So again, if you guys have any questions, please do put it into the Q&A box and we'll try to get to it at the end of the webinar. If we can't, we'll answer them through our emails that will go out. So please don't hesitate at any point. Just jump in if you need more clarification on something, have a quick question. Don't hesitate to just drop in your questions and we'll get to them. Now, in terms of, so I'll go back to reintroduce myself. I'm Andrew. I've been running the webinars here at DIA for some time now, and hopefully they can bring some value to you. If you want to speak to any of our support team or any of our sales team at any point, you can just email support@diasystems.com or just give us a call on that phone number right there, or just shoot us a text message. We do have live bookings available through our website as well. So you can actually book in time with one of our consultants in one of our offices, whether it's in Australian, the EMEA or the North America office. So you'll be able to speak to someone at those offices by simply just going to our website, diasystems.com, and booking through a consultation, or just emailing support and just saying, hey, I want to speak to somebody. They'll put you in touch straight away. So 2 days ago, we had part one webinar where we covered a lot of the actual setup for this webinar. So it is a prerequisite to look at part one, which is available on YouTube, on our YouTube channel. And also, if you can't access it through our YouTube or you haven't been emailed it for whatever reason, again, just contact us and we'll be able to share you the link directly to that webinar. So yeah, please don't hesitate to look, but this is a prerequisite for this one. So you will need to look at the first webinar to get a good understanding of this webinar. So yeah, please don't hesitate at any point to reach out to us for that first webinar. In part two, which is today's webinar, we'll be covering the production process customization, so customizing the production process through the backend setup. Creating a production order from the sales order, so kind of triggers a back order. So selling a product and then from there triggering so creating a sales order, whether that sales order comes from any sales channel or is manually created, we'll be able to go ahead and create a production order or manufacturing order from there. And then also creating a manufacturing order manually. So manually creating these orders, and we'll go through that step by step. Today, we'll also be looking at the capacity planner and the scheduler, which is going to be very interesting. A lot of value there to be gained from those. So we'll go into detail on those. And again, I'm sure you guys will have a lot of questions around the capacity planner and the scheduler. So please don't hesitate to just drop in your questions. And at the end of the webinar, we'll cover BOM explosions, so bill of material explosions. So these are also known as industry standard as nested production orders, which is just pretty much what it means is that there's a production order within a production order. So there's a finished good within this finished good that also needs to be manufactured. So it's not pre-manufactured, that's made available. So that's something just to note. So an explosion bomb or a nested bomb, what it means is just that there's a production order within a production order. So that's what we're going to be covering. And next webinar, which is going to be part 3, we'll cover multiple product production bombs or co-products. So this is going to be very interesting, a little bit complex. So we'll cover that in the webinar itself. Part 4 webinar will cover co-manufacturing, where you're doing full or partial co-manufacturing. So very interesting. I know that also is very useful to a lot of people. And part 5 will do make to order, which is something that's been really missing in this ecosystem for some time. So really bringing that to the table there on part 5. So we're just at part 2 right now. So we'll get there eventually. So in the next couple of weeks, by end of the year, we'll be at part 5, and we would have covered quite a significant portion of the system when it comes to manufacturing. So again, as today's webinar, I'll cover production process, customization, creating a production order from a sales order, manually creating a production order, looking at the capacity planner, the scheduler, and the production bomb explosion, so nested products. So what I'll do in this webinar is actually go through a few slides. I'll jump into Dia, go through the steps in Dia, and then come back and go through some more slides, then jump back into Dia again. So that way, we're not just doing a lot of slides and a lot of time in Dia. So this is something new we're trying out. So please let me know how you guys like it. What's your feelings about it? So really interested to get your feedback. Yeah. So please don't hesitate also just to give me feedback at any point if you think the webinars are valuable, they're not valuable, if you're getting something out of it, if there's more you'd like to see. So please don't hesitate to just drop that in as a suggestion. The first thing I want to kind of cover is automatic replenishment and stock transfers. So this is all found in general settings, which we'll go through in a second, but the whole process of it is that if you remember in the previous webinar, we covered what was called locations, bins, shop floors, and we'll build that a logistics path. So the physical movement of the stock. So the automatic replenishment and transfers pretty much covers that. So make sure that when you sell something and you don't have enough quantities of the components, it automatically raises a PO from the main warehouse, as I say. And as soon as you're receiving that PO, there's already a stock transfer from the main location to, let's just say, your shop floor location where the manufacturing will be happening in your work center. So this is a very important part. So it helps you to manage all your stock movements. And also you don't have to memorize where each stock is coming in and where it needs to go. It'll guide you through it, through that automatic stock transfer that it creates. So from there, we'll look at how to generate a production order with a sales order or with a smart reordering. Now, we'll look at the sales order side because that's going to be the most interesting. The with a smart ordering, it's just looking at what you got low on stock, pretty much what you've sold into a negative or made a commitment to make, and then just generating a production order from there. But sales order is where it's going to be very helpful, where you generating these production orders off the back of sales orders. So very interesting segment, and we'll cover that in detail. And we'll also look at obviously actually creating a production order from a sales order. Now, there's two things that we need to make sure that we have available. So the availability must be 0 for the product. So if I have 10 available of a particular finished good and I do a sales order, the system's going to go, well, you got 10 available, you don't need to make any. I'm going to allocate these, say 5 to this sales order out of the 10. And also you got to make sure that in the sales, if you want to trigger this, that this in the sales order, the location you've selected as your shop floor. So with that being said, you could have say 10 finished goods available, but you can have that available in another location in the system. So your fulfillment location, for example, or your selling location. And if you do get an order in to the system that you want to not allocate those stock, but create a manufacturing order for it, you can then change the location to the shop floor location that the manufacturing runs out of, and then it will trigger that manufacturing order. So from here, I won't go into any more slides. I'll jump straight into the, so we can get hands-on straight away so you guys can get the most value out of the system. So from the system, the first thing we're going to touch on is something we covered in the last webinar, which is locations and logistics part. So under reference books, you're going to be able to find your location. So I'm not going to go into detail, but please make sure that these are set up, because if they're not, you're not going to be able to do this properly. So you just want to make sure you got your locations, you got your default location, you got your shop floor. So in my instance, furniture shop floor. Again, don't worry about co-manufacturing. Then you got all your bins in place, and you've set up all your logistics parts as well. So again, we have great documentation on all of this. So if you haven't set this up, either watch the last webinar or go through our documentation and YouTube tutorial videos, and that will cover the setup all of this. So please make sure this is all set up. Make sure you've thought it all through. Once you've done that and all the setup's done in the back end, under general settings, to the left, you're going to see production process customization. So we're just going to click on that, and it's going to bring us to this page. Now, we have a few options here. So I'll go through all of this today, but our focus is mainly going to be on the first 5 to 6 configurations. The remaining 2 will cover in other webinars. Now, the first one says stock transfer is automatic or manual. So if you set to automatic, it means that as soon as a PO comes into your main warehouse, and that PO was generated because of a sales order in the back end for a manufacturing order, then it would, as soon as that PO is received into the main warehouse or the receiving bin, then it automatically transfers it to the shop floor. So it creates an automatic stock transfer where then you have to authorize. So it's already there and it's going to do it. So we'll look at that example. If it's set to manual, then it's pretty self-explanatory. You need to manually do that stock transfer once stock's been received in. Same goes for the PO. So purchase order replenishment is automatic. So soon as you have a manufacturing order in the system will automatically generate a PO. That PO then would automatically generate it. So all you have to do is authorize it and then receive it in, of course. If it's manual, means that your raw components is going to be simply going into a negative because they're going to be allocated. From there, you have to manually generate a purchase order yourself. So if you set it to automatic, it pretty much the system does those few steps for you automatically. Then you're going to have what's called create a production order. So it says we'll create a production order when the order is authorized of Viva Smart Ordering. So again, Viva Sell authorization. Sell authorization is that as soon as the sales order is authorized, not the quote, but the sales order itself, then a manufacturing order will be generated. And then you have Viva Smart Ordering, that the production order will be created pretty much. So you're going to be selling to a negative, then you have to go into your reports, create it, pretty much trigger the production order. So this will not create a production order when the sales order is authorized. You have to go and technically manually do it out of the reports. Set order status to. Now you have a couple of different options here that I want to go through. You have draft, planned, and released. Now this is great. You're also always going to get these definitions to the right. So if you just hold your mouse over draft, for example, it's going to give you definitions to the right. Draft, it just gives you a draft option. So the order is created as a draft. No stock is allocated. Planned, it means that your planned option means that it's you're planning to take these steps to actually start releasing the order. And then release means that the production order is being authorized, it's been set in motion, it's been set as released. So it technically can start now allocating stock and start moving on to actually doing it. So these are the plans. So you can, first of all, create a draft order, then plan it, then release it. If you want the automatic sales order creation to happen, manufacturing order creation to happen from the sales order authorization, then you will need to have released selected here for that to work. Now, on order release to produce, this is also another crucial one, is that you have quantity required. So the production order, or the manufacturing order, will be set to the quantity required. The other option is to quantity required and maintain a minimum stock level quantity. So if your minimum stock level quantity is 2 and you have 0 and an order comes in for 5, so your production will be 7 units. Or you can say difference between available quantity and the quantity required to cover the shortage. So if the order comes in for 5 units and you have 3, so the production order is only going to be for, so if you have 2 already, production order comes for 5, and then so means that 3 will be the shortage. So the order will be for 3 units. So the manufacturing order will be for 3 units. So also another good one to think about, see how you guys currently doing it. Really sit there and think about, do I want to maintain a minimum quantity? Do I just want to cover shortages? What do I want to do? Or do I want to, every time a sales order comes in for a big order that's assigned to the shop floor location, I want them to create the whole order. Obviously here you can obviously change it. So have a think. Once you set it, it's going to impact your current orders that you put into the system going forward. But then if you change it in the future, for the future orders, it will change that logic. And then you have waste write-off. So if you are writing off of waste in a production cost, you can write it off into the production cost. So if I produce 10 items, each one costs me $1, but I have a wastage of one that came up ruined and I couldn't use it and I had to write it off. With that one, do you want that cost to be attributed across the all 9? Or alternatively, you can post it to an expense account, and here you can actually select your expense account from your chart of accounts. Again, chart of accounts is pulled in from your accounting application, or if you're using D as a standalone, there's an ability to import a chart of accounts, but it will come from your accounting application. So if you do need to create a new chart of account for that, it needs to happen in the accounting application and then synced over into DIA. We won't go into detail with these. So procurement in co-manufacturing operation. So you got a couple of options here: buy or sell for the products, or transfer the products to a co-manufacturing location. And then when to transfer finished products to a storage location. Either don't transfer on production order completion or on production run completion. So if you have a particular storage place, so that's for example, you have a fridge, you produce cheese. As soon as the, let's just say the production order is completed, go ahead and transfer that into that location. Or as soon as the production run is completed, transfer that into that location. So for this one, I'm going to say don't transfer, and I'm going to save my settings. So just to make sure is that, once you have these settings and you don't have any available stock, you select your sales order as a location, you will go ahead and it will automatically create those manufacturing orders. So let's go and do that. So let's go into sales and look at a simple sale for the moment. So let's select the customer. Let's say ABC Furniture in this instance. Now, what we want to do, make sure again, is that our location is my furniture shop floor. That's priority number 1. Obviously, you need to fill out all the other relevant information. We're going to skip the code so we can go straight into the order. Click on the order and type in my wooden chair here. Now, again, another thing, you can always look at the available and on hand. Yes, I have 114 on hand, but my available is nil because they've been allocated to other sales orders. So let's just say quantity produced, 25 chairs. And if I'm pretty happy with this, then I'm going to double check everything here. I'm okay. So I'm going to authorize and I'm going to allocate the stock. That's going to give me, so you don't have enough stock, and I'm going to say back order. what this back order really does, it goes ahead and triggers that manufacturing order. So if we go into productions, go into our production orders, we'll see that there's been a trigger here. Now we can see that there's the wooden chair, and I got my run 1. So perfect there. So I'm going to jump into my run 1 here. Now, and we can see the complete BOM here. We can see the required buy date, everything that's been triggered into the system. And then we can jump into the run to complete it. Now we can go through the entire run here, which is just pretty much going through each single step. But from here, if there was any other POs, related orders, that will all come under here. So if there's anything that needs to be ordered, that will come under there. So from here, that's pretty much how pretty much a manufacturing run is generated automatically from a sales order. So very simple, not much you need to do from that perspective. So what I'll do now is actually try to create a manual order, and we'll go into detail into every single step that's required. But before that, I'll just quickly jump back into the slides here. And so when we're looking at a manual creation of an order, we'll look at document header fields, capacity calculation method, how to load a production BOM, authorize and release it, look at the production runs. So these are breaking the same production order into multiple runs. So for example, if I'm producing 25 units, but I want to produce 5 at a time, then I could build that out into 5 different runs. Carrying out a production order. So we'll go through this step by step of actually carrying out each order, looking at the times we're going to assign to each order, and then completing a production order from there. So we'll look at completing a full production order, looking at our output and everything from there. So very simple. So let's and then from there, we'll also go ahead and after that cover capacity planner and scheduler. So it's going to be very, very awesome. So I'll just jump back from this screen back to here. And if we're going back to our dashboard, and we'll go ahead and look at production orders. And again, production order. To create a production order, just going to click on this plus sign. We want to select our SKU. We want to select our shop floor. So furniture shop floor, the wooden chair, and so forth. Now the quantity to produce, if I click on here, it will tell us the maximum quantity to produce, nil, because we don't have all the relevant raw components, which is what I wanted. Now I want to produce 50 chairs. And what I want to do from here, look at the capacity calculation. Now the capacity calculation, we have 2 options here. We have from plan date forward or from required buy date backwards. Now, very, very interesting here. So this is where you will see this asterisk. So from the plan date forward, if I've selected that, you can see that then it will say my plan date will have an asterisk next to it. Or if I say from the required date backwards, it will have the required buy date backwards. So if I said that this order has to go out by, let's just say 20 before Christmas, let's say 15th, and I click on refresh here, well, it's going to tell me that, hey, you need to release this order in the next few days, and you need to plan date to start its manufacturing will be on this date. to get it all done. Now, this is going to take into consideration the buffer time. It's going to take into consideration the cycle time. So the buffer time is the extra time that we're going to allow for if anything goes wrong, just the whole process. The cycle time is that each production step has this particular cycle time. So it's going to take all that into consideration. Plus, it's going to take into consideration the lead time. So whether it's the lead time of the production order or the lead time of each overall component to get into the system. So this is very, very important to calculate these. So we'll go ahead and plan this out like this. And again, if you need to change any of the finished good or work in progress accounts, please, you can do that. And we're going to jump in and say load. So we can select our version of the BOM. We went through this last webinar. So I'm going to click load bill of materials for my cherry lumber. Here we're going to have each step. Anything that's been marked as red is what we don't have available. So I can go in. Most importantly, if I need to change anything in this bill of materials, I can actually do it here. This is fantastic. So if I need to add a different SKU or change the wastage quantity, so as the production manager, I can actually go into detail. Everything's laid out for me as a nice template. But if I need to change any of the quantities, I can. And then once I'm happy with this, what I can do from there is go ahead and authorize the order. Now, authorizing the order is the same as authorizing the sales order or any order in the system. It allocates or commits, kind of soft commits the products in. So I'm going to go ahead and authorize. Yes, would you like to produce? Yes, I'd like to produce 50. And then the system's going to run its calculations in the back end, look at everything from there. So fantastic. The orders in the system, it's been authorized. Now we can see we got the production run here as a tab. We have order, transaction, related orders. So if I just jump into, for example, there's going to be no transactions because we haven't run anything yet. We just have the order in the system. So these are the accounting transactions. We got the related orders. So this is fantastic. So we can see we got the purchase order, and then we also have the stock transfer. Now I'm just going to go ahead and open these up in a new tab. And then from there, we have attachments. So if I had previously attached something, come up here, or I can start attaching stuff here. And of course, we've got a complete activity log. So I'm just going to jump into that purchase order. So this is all the raw components I need. So it's automatically generated. Please note that it's created the order in the main warehouse because that's my logistics path. So it remembers that everything comes into my main warehouse. If I need to change anything here, I can actually change in and change these quantities if I need to. But for this time, we're just going to approve it. The order, jump into the invoice, put a quick invoice number in just to get the order into the system with the cost base. So again, please make sure that understand that there is an actual accounting software, so it pulls the cost from the cost base from the actual invoices. So I want to authorize that, and from there, I want to use supply deposits. Go to stock receive, copy it from invoice. Super happy with this, and I'm going to authorize it. Now, once it's been authorized, if I jump into my stock transfer, the system is already done the stock transfer for me. So it's gone from the main warehouse to the furniture shop floor. This is all the minimum required items that I need. And I'm just going to go ahead and look at that, look at the products, fill from order. Yep, this is all I need to do. And select the stock receive date, today's date. And I'm going to go ahead and complete this. Now the system calculates that. Perfect. So all my stock's done. So what I can do is actually go back into my production order here. Click on production run, and I can say create a run. So my first production run, not run number 1. So I'm going to produce 50 units. That's my order, but I can't do 50 at a time. So what I'm going to do is just create 2 runs, one for 25 units and another run for another 25. So the remaining. So you can see now I'm doing 25 out of 25, remaining quantity 0. So I'm going to say run, and I'm going to get production run 1 and production run 2. Very, very interesting here. So I can then from there jump into my production run, which is fantastic. Everything's laid out, easy, quantity to produce, 25, work in progress accounts, everything. So I've got all my different processes here. Now, if I want to jump straight into painting, I can't do that because I haven't done any of the following steps, but I can start with my processing of lumber. And again, I can change the work in progress account from here. And what I can do is go ahead and start my processing. Now, also please note the cycle time is noted here. So my planned time is 10 hours to process this timber. It's a very tough timber. It takes a lot of hours. It takes about a day and a half. So what I'm going to do is once I start this, there's a back end timer that's going on. And if anything happens, last webinar we spoke about suspense reasons. So I can actually suspend this for a reason. So if I suddenly, there's a power outage, I can suspend it and it stops the time, even though the production is in motion. So time's been contributing it, but it's not going to contribute that time to the cost base when it's in suspense, because it's not part of the manufacturing cost. It goes into a different account in terms of cost of time, machine hours gone, or whatever it is. So I can do that. But if I'm happy, I can also then go to auto consume the products. So auto consume is for components. So this is something to note, is that this is a type component, for example, required quantity 10, actual quantity is consumed. I can actually manually put it in there, like 10 units, for example, or and then put in my wastage and so forth. Or if I say auto consume, it's going to auto consume those 10 units, actual quantity 10. Please note that this is not a pick, as they call it, because a pick is the product's already been picked. It's sitting in the location, but it's the actual component consumption. So like a piece of timber actually going into the machine at a time. So I click on auto consume. Once I've done it all and I'm happy with that, I can say complete. While the system is completing, my actual time is loaded. So since I started this, it's been 2 minutes and 5 seconds. This is where it's going to pull all the labor hours and so forth. So you need to actually make sure that this is correct. So except 10 hours, let's just say it actually took me, 250 minutes, 4 hours and 10 minutes. And what I'm going to do is just save it. Now I can do this for each step. So once this step is done, I can jump into cutting the fabric. Now, one thing to note here is that if I want to jump into sewing on the covers, it's not going to let me start. But cutting the fabric and carving the leather is going to let me do that at the same time, because they're simultaneous parallel activities, even though they're two separate steps. But I can still do each one straight away at the same time. So it's actually going to let me do these at the same time. Now, was the setup of this was covered in the last webinar, but it's pretty much saying that this action relies on this action. Simple as that. Again, it's covered in the last webinar, so please don't hesitate to jump into that. So I could jump into cutting a fabric, start again, look at a suspense time. So I can have each of my workers log in, start their time, click complete their time, and change the actual time here to, for example, 200 minutes. So 5 hours exactly. Beautiful. Save it. We can process forward. Now, I won't go through every single step here because I've made it very complicated. There's a lot of steps to cover here. But so what I'll do is just jump into another order that I have in the system that I'm in the final stage, so we can go through the final stage together. Let's go look at the production orders again. Where are we? Work in progress complete. Now, what I want to do is jump into the production run. So I've completed each step with its relevant hours that goes into it and actual quantities, wastage, everything will be considered here. Now we're going to get into the packaging. Now, what I'm going to do is going to go ahead and complete the final step, which is the packaging, putting it into a box or a container. Complete it. Once I click on the last one to complete, I get this. Now, what this tells me is like actually produced, wastage, total produced. I can actually put in the wastage here, receive date, which is the date of the finish, and the location that I finished it in. Now at the top, you have complete and complete without output. Now, if I say complete without output, it's just going to complete the order, keep it in this location, and that's it. If I can press complete, I'm going to have another step where it's going to actually let me identify the actual output. So I'm going to press complete here. So again, this was running in the background, so you can see the time it's taken to actually complete it. Can click on output, and you can see my actual output here. You can see my location. I can actually change the location again of the output. If I need to amend the wastage, I can. Actual produced, I can actually change that figure too. And then if I finish it, say complete, then my output's done. Oh, oops, I've got to choose an effective date, which is my fault. And complete. Now I've completed this, and this is my output's been done. And then my actual cost then is generated. So the actual cost for these 5 chairs is $726.06. So that's the actual cost that's pulled in from the actual cost basis of the system. Then I can add any manual journals if I need to, and then I'll have a breakdown of all the transactions as well here to the final cost base. So very interesting, very smooth process. Everything's calculated, everything's traced in that as well. So once this product is available, now I can fulfill an order. I can do more stock transfers if I need to send it into another location or a warehouse or a retail store. Again, all that can be built into logistics path. I can do it manually from here onwards. So that's pretty much the major. Once you've completed as mark as complete, you're done. That was it. So that's the whole process, managing it manually every single step by step. So excellent. Highly recommend going and giving a good go as an example. Make it a simple one at first and just trial it out in the system. And our support team will be here to help with any questions you might have. From here, I'm just going to quickly jump back into to the slides. If you bear with me. Now we're going to jump into the capacity planner and talk about that. So just being mindful of time. So we're just going to keep running ahead. Now the capacity planner is a resource allocation reporting and replanning tool. So that's it's some way to manage your resources. And the capacity planner shows the capacity for a selected planning period, which resources are over allocated, or if you need, requires reallocation of the planning and capacity. So if you simply don't have capacity and you're overcommitted, you'll be able to see it here very quickly, so you don't find out last minute. So the best way I like to look at the capacity planner, if you're familiar with the product availability screen, the capacity planner is just the availability screen for resources, for labor hours and machine hours and so forth. That's the best way to look at it. Also looking at the scheduler. Now, the scheduler is very interesting. There's going to be a lot of enhancements going to come out on specifically for the scheduler in the near future. So it's going to have even more functions. So please get up to date as the scheduler is right now. Make sure you understand it. So then in the future, when the enhancements come out, you can really take advantage of the scheduler. So it's a visualization tool, in short, to look at all your production order information. So you can look at everything, all the different resources. You got different types of coloring as well to give you better like visualize key points where you can figure out, are you running late? Are you running into the risk of running into to the red zone technically? So not ability to fulfill your order on that required buy date and get the order out. And yeah, it kind of gives you a really good tool to see how long the order should take. You can determine resource loading. And if you're a new manufacturer, you can use this to say, hey, look, it was meant to take 3 days, but it took 2.5. That's half a day of capacity that was over allocated. So going back and revisiting that capacity planner to help to directly feed into the scheduler. Awesome. And the scheduler contains about 4 views. So it looks at planning, production, resources, and sales views. So we'll cover that. And then after that, we can look at a nested BOM quickly, which is, once we've already done the hard bit, it's very easy to actually look at it. So from here, I'll just jump straight into DIA, go into production, look at the capacity planner. So this is pretty much all your resources. We can see what's available. So total amount, what's available, and what's allocated. So you can see my craftsmen, they still got plenty available time from this date range, from 2 to this date range. I've allocated 126 hours, consumed about 28 hours of their time already. So I can have all these little hyperlinks, you can actually click on it. So you can see as allocated, and it will actually, the system will load up all the sales orders and manufacturing orders that these are allocated to, the allocated amounts. And I can open these up in the scheduler too if I need to from here. I can look at the consumed already. So I can look at the consumed hours for whichever orders, total consumed, and open it up in scheduler. It's going to go ahead and, so this is pretty much it. So from here, you can select the date range. You can select your particular shop floor, for example, as well to look at, and you can refresh. So this is your complete capacity planner. And again, you can amend any of these information, but this pretty much gives you availability on all your resources. Very simple from that perspective. I won't spend too much more time on it, but that's pretty much it. And from here, we're going to look at the scheduler. Now, the scheduler is very, for me, it is one of the most nice to look at pages in DIA. It's a full Gantt chart. It shows you everything. So from here, you got all your planned orders. So this is everything that's been planned in the time ranges. You can also look at all your orders that are here. You can click down into any of these orders. So these are all your planned and these are all your released orders. So I can actually click into them and it will drive me to that order. And then if I look into production, I'll look at all my orders that are in production right now. Look at your resources. So resources pretty much, red means that this super red means that it's busy. If it's like that fainted pinky red, it means they're still available. And I can just drop in there as well and look at all the different orders there that they need to be eventually looked at for. So craftsman is related to craftsman. All these orders, 9 hours, 3 hours, 6 hours, 40 hours here. So these are all related. So you can look at them. What's their availability? When they're actually busy, you can look at it per day. And again, per location, per shop floor. And you can look at it per sales order. So you can see this sales order, it's going to take me from here to here to finish it. So you can look at per sales order. This, click on it, it takes you to that sales order. Very simple. So you can see sales order here. So fantastic. You can look at the manufacturing order. It's going to take me this much to do it. So it's excellent. So you can see the manufacturing order number and the sales order number that's tied to it per order. But most importantly, under the production, if I click on this little gear knob, you're going to be able to see collapse all groups or expand all groups. So if I say expand all groups, what it's going to do is going to expand each step that's there under each run for each manufacturing order. So pretty cool. I can start it actually from this screen here. So I can say, yep, start this. I want to start that. If it's ready to be started, the capacity is available. You can actually start it. And I can also show resources too. So if I click up to click show resources, it's going to be able to show me my painters, my drilling machine and craftsman and total hours it's going to require from them. So craftsman 4 hours here for this order, so forth on the 17. Painter 8 hours. So it's going to look at my full thing. Obviously anything that's red is overcommitted. So I'll just drop that out. I can look at it by hourly. I can look at it by day. I can look at it by week. I can say show all dependencies. So if we look at something here, for example, this one's a good example. If I untick dependencies, it's going to remove that dependencies. And if I click here, it's going to show me that this is dependent on this and this and this and so forth, and the flow. Very nice and easy. So if you're familiar with other production order Gantt charts, this will be walk in the park, very clear. You can look at vertical lines, remove vertical lines, horizontal lines, remove horizontal lines, show weekends, don't show weekends. Very easy. But also from here, you can also edit mode. So if I just go ahead and collapse all groups, I can actually edit some of these. So if I'm looking at this order and I want to edit mode, which means I can actually edit it. So, for example, this one that's been rescheduled, I can actually move it and it will show me the scheduled and the buffer time. And also looks at weekends. So if I try to put it here, it'll just going to move it away from the weekend because that's my day off. I'm not in operation that day. So again, if I try to put it there, it will go ahead and reshuffle it to the next available time. And then if I go back in time, it's going to tell me, hey, you need to, it's the planning time. You're going to be running into the red zone pretty much. And I can reshuffle it. So once I'm happy with that, save changes and so forth. I can also, if I go back down to 76, I think it was, click on edit mode, drop down the run. I can actually just change the run time as well, and it would change it. So if I'm looking at something with multiple runs, I can actually just change the run hour and it will change it accordingly. So it's kind of drag and drop from that perspective, save changes, And again, I can view it in like a massive screen format as well if I just click here. And I can look at my custom dates. I can look at things from the last 7 days ahead, 14 days ahead. I can look at a custom date range as well, look at a particular work center, look at a particular resource only. So very flexible on that end. So just mindful of time, I want to jump quickly into that's the most of the scheduler there. I'm just going to jump into explosion bombs. Now, an explosion bomb is a production order that has 2 production orders in one manufacturing run. So let's look at, again, let's create a manual production order. So let's go into production orders. Let's click create an order. Again, let's look at my wooden chair, shop floor, my furniture shop floor. I'm going to look at by date of this week and produce, let's say 10. And load bill of materials. So one thing you have to do is change the actual thing to say, I have a one here called nested bomb. So I could just load that bill of materials. And what I want to focus on is my lumber maple, this component. So if I just quickly look up this component under my inventory, under my products, I can see that this product, lumber maple, actually has its own production bomb. So this is the actual production bomb just to get that raw component in for that first stage. So this is a nested bomb. So this is a production order that has another production order in it. So if I jump back into my production order here, and I go ahead and authorize it. Yes, I'm gonna produce 10. And the system will in the back end calculate everything. And if I look into my related orders here, you'll see those purchase orders and stock transfers. But most importantly is that order, this lumber maple has its own production lumber. Now what I'm going to do is just going to undo it, because what we can see here is that this lumber actually has some quantities available. So I'm just going to undo this order. And yes, I want to undo these as well. So you can keep those production orders, so purchase orders and stock transfers in place when you undo an order, or you can just undo them as well and takes it back into draft mode and keeps it linked, but as draft. So there's no kind of stock on order at the moment when that's happening. Yep. And what we want to do, as you remember, we can actually change these components. So instead of 10, let's just say that we need actually 350 of this. So what I should do is should take it into red, into my available quantity from there. And then once I go ahead and authorize it, no, one of those order for 10. So what it'll do, in the back end, Dia will actually create another manufacturing run for that lumber, since we've used it into a negative now that we need more of it. So so from here, it will actually go ahead and create another manufacturing order for this lumber maple. So from here, it will go ahead and create it, and we can just go through the steps as we covered before. So it's very simple. It's very easy to do. So to do a production order that has another production order, you just need to make sure that raw component that's in it has a production order assigned to it, and Dia will automatically generate another production order and put that as a step into place. Because if you go and search India now, maple, you can see the maple order that was produced here. It's called 300 something that was produced. So this has been planned. Now it just needs to be released first. So we can see lumber. We've got a couple of them actually. So that's the one. So it's very interesting, super simple, super easy to manage. Again, the only time it won't create the production order if there is sufficient amounts available already. With that being said, and just being mindful of all the webinar time right now, we've got a couple of minutes to go. So unfortunately, I don't have any time sufficient to answer everyone's questions that's kind of popped in. So what I'll do is that go ahead and try to answer any of the questions that come through. So if anyone's got a question and wants to pop it in quickly in the next 30 seconds, please go ahead and put that in. Apart from that, I want to thank everybody for joining the webinar. I know the MRP module is not an easy module, but it's definitely one of the more interesting modules in the system, and one that really generates a lot of value for business owners, manufacturers, and advisors that work with manufacturing clients. So from here, if you have any questions, again, please don't hesitate to contact our support at support@dsystems.com. You can call the Australian office or call the North America office directly on those numbers. And if you need to speak to anybody else in any other time zone, just email support and they will get back to you. So I saw a couple of questions coming through now. So I will go ahead and try to answer them. What I'll do is also, someone just put a quick, easy question. Can we please get a link to the first MRP part 1? You can definitely do. It's available on YouTube, but I'll link it to everybody. And I think my colleague Thuranga might have put it into the chat box already. So I'll go ahead and copy that and send that to you, Brett. So apart from that, thanks everybody. Thanks, Kerry. Thanks everyone for joining. Much appreciated. And I'll go ahead and end the webinar for now and see you on the next one. Cheers. Bye.